Hi, I'm Tara Cross, and welcome back to Creating Joy. Today, as we celebrate Christmas in July, we are going to do our day 9 of the 12 Days of Christmas series. So today I'm going to teach you how to make your own Advent storybook as I make some for my own children this Christmas. Way back in 1995, when I first got married, we had an amazing Super Saturday at church. And this is where we would come together and we would do several different crafts and we would choose ahead what we wanted to do. One of the things that I chose was I really wanted to make an Advent book. And this book, it was decorated with fabric that had like a nativity scene on the top of it. And then inside, it had a different story that you could read 24 days leading up to Christmas. And then on Christmas Day, you would read the Christmas story. So, and they were really neat stories like The Gift of the Magi and stories like that. Well, I have 7 children and 3 of them are now married and having children of their own. And I thought, what a wonderful gift it would be to make each of them their own Advent storybook. So the items that we're going to need are, of course, some fabric that has a nativity scene. So each book will take about 3/4 of a yard of fabric. So I just went ahead and bought a yard of fabric for each one just to make sure that I had enough. Then you're going to need some batting and you're going to need a 1-inch binder. You're also going to need a needle and thread. So when I went back to Hobby Lobby, it was the place where I went in 1995 to get ribbon for my binder, and they had the exact same ribbon. The reason why I like this ribbon is because it has 2 sides. It has a left and a right, right? An open and close. And so when you are putting your binding around your book, then you will be taking your ribbon and putting it on both sides and sewing it. And I will be showing that as we go. So there's no exact science or pattern for this. What I did do is I took my batting and I wrapped it around my binder and I made it so that it would fit perfectly to go to the inside. And so it meets right at the top. And then take it the other direction. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and just using my binder attachment in the center as a guide. And I'm cutting it just below where the edge of the binder is. So then with our fabric, we want approximately the same amount, but we're going to add in about 1 inch to 1/2 inch along the edges because we're going to fold it in and give it a nice little iron so it has a crisp edge. Okay, so I'm going to use this fabric as a pattern for my fabric. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and cut our fabric. Okay, now that we have both our fabric and our batting all cut, we're going to go ahead and going to lay out our fabric face down, and then we're going to center our batting right in the center so there's a little bit of the fabric overlapping on both ends. Then we're going to take our binder and set it right in the middle. Just get it all centered. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our fabric and we're going to stretch it over. I am keeping this part that has the edge. I need the extra length for it to reach. So I just poked holes, reached it through, popped it, and popped it over. Then that did the same with the fabric. So let's make sure we've got it straight how we want it to be before I go making any holes. Now I'm going to take this and stretch it as far as it'll go to the other side so I can make sure that I can cover this one up. So I'm going to stretch it as far as I can so that it will cover up the other side. And then I'm going to poke the holes. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and get matching thread, and then I'm going to do a whip stitch. I'm going to go ahead and get some blue thread and then just do a whip stitch all the way down. Now you're going to get your matching ribbon. I found this really cute reindeer and snowflake ribbon that I bought last year. And I'm going to go ahead and cut it the length of my binder in the center. And then we want to be able to fold it over about that far. So I'm just going to cut it the length of my fabric right there. So I'm going to cut it right there by my little deer. Now I'm going to set it aside. So this will be the very last thing that I'm going to do after I go around the whole outside with my ribbon. So now I'm going to get a double thickness of red thread to match my red ribbon that I have. Okay, once that's tied, and you got it all tight, we're going to go ahead and we're going to take our fabric and we're going to go around this clip. I'm going to fold this under a little bit and fold this one under, come around and then wrap it inside. And then we're going to take this one underneath. So I already pressed it. And we're going to bring it up together. So you're going to have to decide if you're going to start on the bottom or on the top. I'm going to start right here on the bottom. After I've got my fabric all matched together and lined up, I'm going to go ahead and pin it for a minute. So like I showed before, the thing I like about this particular ribbon is it opens and it can hide your seam. So like you can see here, I think I'm going to just go ahead and show up here at the top so you can see what I'm doing. There you go. I'll just turn it around. So I really want to start at the bottom. So I'll just turn this around and okay, so this one I didn't leave an opening for it, so I may just make a little opening and slide it through. There we go. That works. I just slid it through some of my stitches is what I did. Okay, so this works. Okay, so then go ahead and take this pin out and I'm going to attach it right here. I'm going to pin it on. So I'm going to take the time to go ahead and pin it around. So you have to do double stitching. You have to stitch on the top of your book going around, and then you have to stitch on the bottom to stitch the back side on. So it's going to be, you're going to be sewing on both sides. So it is a lot of hand stitching, but it is so worth it. The effect is beautiful. So I'm just going to go ahead and pin it on, and then I will show you my stitching, how I do the stitching. So when we start on the book, we're going to come to the edge, clear under here. And so we have our little binder thing. It should be sticking out right here. We're going to begin right at the right next to the binder center. And notice how I'm coming from the bottom, coming up so that the tail will be tucked inside. Okay, and then I'm going to come up to just the edge of my ribbon here. Pull it through. Now the key for this, for sewing this on, is we are going to go down right next to where we came up. Okay, so on this red, you're hardly going to see anything because we're going to go down right where we started. Just not in the exact same hole. I think I just came out the exact same hole. So right next to it, but not. Okay, there we go. Okay, and then we're going to come, this is when we're going to go right next to where we were, but then we're going to make probably about 1/2 inch over. Okay, and then we're going to come up again. So we're going to do about 1/4 inch from the top of the ribbon. Make it look like you have a nice 1/4 inch seam all the way around. And then I'm going to go back down, and then I'm going to come over underneath and pull it through. So I just wanted to explain it to you so that you can understand what is happening when I go around the whole entire book. And I can come down here, reach over. And as you go around, you're going to get faster and faster, and you're going to get a little method of how you know it. You can just pick it up and go back down, and it's going to get really, really fast as you're going around. You're going to get the hang of it. As I was going through and I was sewing on my book, I noticed that my needle was having a really hard time going through the fabric. And I remembered that I had been given some beeswax. It's thread conditioner. And I've had it in my toolbox, my sewing toolbox, for a while. And I thought, I'm going to pull that out and give it a try. And I took my needle. I'm going to just show you really quick. And just took the beeswax out. I haven't really used it before, so I was like having troubles trying to stick it through it. And I'm like, well, it's not really sticking through it. So I just took the back of it and just ran it up and down my needle on every single side. And then just kind of dug in a little bit on the point, a little bit. And then when I started sewing again, it just went right through. And I'm like, oh my goodness, okay, this is so much better. The other thing, a trick I learned um, from my mom years ago, is that when you have a dual pin, a dual needle, you can just take and just rub it lightly on the top of your scalp. And it picks up some of the oils from your hair. You're not poking yourself. You're just barely gently rubbing it, and it will help get some oils on the tip of your needle, and it will help it to go inside of your fabric. So these are just a few little tips. So another thing that I realized when I started sewing is that I really needed my thimble. I know sometimes I think, oh, I don't need a thimble, I can do it without. But after a while, like, oh, it'd be so much easier if I just get up and go get my thimble. It's not that far away, just over there in my sewing drawer. So take the time, get your thimble, saves you some pain on your fingers. Okay, so to finish off our book, so this is the front, and I finished going all the way around. We're going to fold in our ribbon, and then we're going to go ahead and do a whip stitch all the way down to connect it to the bottom. So then we turn the book over, and what we're going to do now is we're going to fold over this last piece, and then we're going to do the same that we did before. We're going to whip stitch this piece down. So then we have a finished binder, and we're going to just, you can just whip stitch this closed. So I finished my book for When My Children for this year. So this is the new one and this is the old one. So we can see they're pretty similar. The ruffles are a tiny bit different, but they change over the years. So I'm just really glad I had something I could refer back to and reteach myself how I made the first one. So now you know how to make it too. And you can make one for your Christmas story. So thanks again for joining me today on the 12 Days of Christmas in July.